there guys, and welcome back to UnJaded Jade. Firstly, the reason that I look so summery is because there's such great heating in this room that I can dress like this and still be warm in winter. I'm currently looking at all my summery clothes for Australia as well. I found this old jumpsuit. I've fallen in love with it again, so yes. This video is a follow-on from a video I made a few weeks ago called I was rejected from Oxford, why I'm not reapplying, how I told my friends, my family, etc. I basically just answered loads of questions from you guys over on my Instagram. However, there were 600 questions and I think it's such an important topic to talk about, like rejection and failure and growing and moving on from those negative events and kind of turning them into something more positive. So I wanted to do another dedicated video. So here it is, part 2. If you've never seen my face before, hi, my name is Jade, I'm 18, I'm on a gap year, and last year I applied to Oxford University. It was by far my top choice and I applied for biology to Brasenose College. However, I was rejected and I shared that rejection publicly on this YouTube channel to a lot of people when I was kind of in a very vulnerable state, which made it even more difficult at the time, especially because it meant so much to me. But since then, I have grown a lot, I have matured, and I have gained a lot of closure on the topic. So yes, so I'm just sat here reading these comments and I don't know what it is. I just still, even though I fully gained closure, I just still find it hard to talk about. But we're gonna dive right in. This is a good question from Linnea. How did you deal with people asking you about it after being rejected? I'm not applying to Oxford, but to another one that's hard to get into, and I'm not looking forward to people asking if I got in and having to deal with the pity looks. That is such a good question, because obviously if anyone knows that you're applying to a top university, then the odds are they're going to want to know how you got on. And I think that's actually one of the biggest fears people have about rejection, is not even just internal pressures, but like external pressures. So like reputation, having to tell people, having to tell teachers and people who were invested in your application other than you. Personally, I never tried to like hide the fact that I was rejected. I don't know, I'm always of the mindset that like I'd rather just own something, people hear it from my mouth. Like I was very open about the fact that I was rejected to when people asked. People were always skirting the topic as well when they spoke to me, because obviously if someone's rejected, you don't want to like pry into it too much because it's a bit of a wound, you know. But I kind of didn't like that like pity, sympathy, skirting around kind of thing. It's like, I know this is a very weird example, but it just came to mind. If someone has cancer, for example, no one ever wants to talk about the cancer, if that makes sense. When people talk to the person with cancer, it's easy to just like skirt around it and then like move on, but you can feel the sympathy and the pity. That is what rejection is like in some ways as well. People don't want to pry into it too much, but I think for me that made it worse, because then it felt like it should be something to be embarrassed about. So yeah, I kind of liked talking it through and just like owning it instead of making it something really taboo in conversation, if that makes any sense. I feel like that didn't make any sense what I just said. But yeah, I think it's so personal just how you deal with it. You don't have to even tell people that you were rejected. You can just say that you'd rather not talk about it if you want, and that's enough of an answer. However you want to deal with talking about it is okay. But yeah, the sympathy stuff is hard and made me cry. Oh, okay, we're gonna dive in with this question. Why do you think you were rejected? That's not a nice question, but let's dissect that question a bit. So I actually requested feedback from my interview. I wasn't going to, I didn't even know that you could, but my biology teacher was like, Jade, you should ask for feedback, you know, you could learn from it, just ask. I still really didn't want to, but I requested the feedback. I got it. I got a letter from Brasenose College in the post, and I wish I had the letter on me. It is at home, so I can't really remember exactly what it said. It's been like 9 months since I looked at that letter. Basically, I can remember it being very impersonal. It didn't even feel like the people interviewing me had written it. Like, it didn't feel very helpful or constructive or specific. What I can remember it saying was something along the lines of, the other candidates like were better. Basically, that's a very blunt way of saying it, but I think that's what they were getting at. It wasn't like, oh, this thing about you was bad. It was like, someone else was better suited or answered that question better, which is both nice and frustrating. It's nice because it basically tells you that there was nothing really wrong with you as an applicant and that you're not stupid or anything like that. Just the fact that someone was better suited or deserved it more, I suppose. It's frustrating in that it's very hard to know how to improve because it's so vague. I do wonder in some ways if me applying deferred had any like impact on my application, because they did ask me about my gap year in interview. I really don't know many people who have been to Oxbridge, especially from my school, so I felt like I didn't really have like a good opinion to go off. But I did speak to Viola Helen, who is a YouTuber, and she applied deferred and she got in. So I was like, oh, well, if she can do it, then I can do it, which is why I did it. But who knows, maybe that was part of the reason. In all honesty, even though I feel like the interviews didn't go like badly or horrifically, like, I know that I could have answered things better. My answers were not flawless. I am not a genius, you know. In all honesty, I just think other people were better. And that's okay. I think that's just the truth. I don't feel like stupid because of it. I don't think it helped either that I had no voice. Like I physically could not speak properly. I was like croaking, I had a coughing fit in the second interview and like was chugging on water, and it was just like, that was really frustrating because even if I had things in my head, I felt like I couldn't properly voice them either. I'm not gonna blame not getting in on my voice because that's not fair at all. I just think my answers were clearly not good enough. I also just think I wasn't scientific enough, maybe. Like, I love biology, but my life is not only biology. And I met some people at Oxford who knew everything and anything about biology, way more than I knew. Like, I met this girl who, she might as well have been like a post-grad student, and I have no idea if she got in, but yeah, she was very well equipped. So yeah, maybe that's why I didn't get in. I don't know. How did you stay motivated for the rest of your A-levels? That is a very good question as well. My top choice uni, the offer I needed was AAB. Whereas for Oxford, it was like A star, A or something. So I can see why a lot of people would lose the motivation because they're like, oh, I don't need to get the grades anymore. Personally, I always wanted to get the grades for me, not like external pressures, not for Oxford. It was just, I felt I was capable of getting like an A star in each subject if I was to work my socks off. So more for myself than anyone, that just kept me motivated. Even though Oxford would have been like if anything, it would have been more like a fear motivation. Like, oh my gosh, can you imagine getting into Oxford and then just missing the grades and then not getting in? I feel like that's a fear. Whereas mine was more of an internal motivation to get the grades just because I wanted to. Why did you delete your Oxford interview in details video? Good question. So I posted a really in-depth video of like my interview with like literally the questions and how I felt I answered, and it was like very honest, and I filmed it a few days after my interview, so it was so fresh. I took that video down. I think Eve messaged me, or like someone messaged me basically saying that they often recycle the questions year on year or recycle some of the examples, and like it could be like a confidentiality breach, which I didn't even know was like a thing, but I thought I'd rather be safe than sorry, so I just took it down. That's why. Jade babes, with those grades like yours, I'd be buzzing to apply for medicine. It's such a beautiful field and you'll like 99% get into it. Okay, medicine is a beautiful field, I agree, but I wanted to be a vet a lot of my teenage years, but personally medicine and being a doctor has never appealed to me, oddly, so I won't be applying for medicine, but I appreciate the confidence in me. Did you prepare yourself for possibly being rejected from Oxford, and did you have a strong backup plan for if you didn't get in? Honestly, I really didn't have a backup plan. For me, it was never like I had another university which I was super passionate about, that if I got rejected I would instantly choose that one. Like, I really didn't feel like that. It wasn't that I thought I'd get in, it was more just I didn't have a backup plan I was confident in. So when I was rejected, I was like, man, okay, where am I going now then? So I was basically forced to reevaluate everything, think about stuff so much, attend applicant days, and then work out stuff from there. My backup plan was more of a forced backup plan when I was rejected. I'm not very good at planning things in advance, I don't think. What were your feelings right before you went into the interview? Oh, like terrified, also sort of excited in a way, because I was enjoying my time at Oxford so much. You know, I met so many cool people in the common room and we were all really supportive of each other. We were like, well, the people that I had chosen to be friends with, not everyone was supportive. But yeah, me and my little squad that I made friends with, it was like, oh, like go on, you've got this, like smash this, and we like walk each other to the interviews, and super nice. Just before I went in, I'm pretty sure I was shaking. My heart was like palpitating. Probably thought I was gonna die and trip over every word. And along with this question, they asked, were there people at the interview that seemed better prepared than you or worse prepared, and how did you combat this so you didn't make yourself nervous or more paranoid? Do you know what? There definitely were some people who were there intentionally trying to put people off. And I wasn't gonna have that. That's not okay. You can't sit there in the common room spouting all these things that you know are putting people off. Like saying, oh yeah, I was in the interview room. Oh, I had such a good interview. Me and the interviewer got on so well. They asked me about this and I knew every answer and they were so impressed. And some of the things, I'm not even sure if people were just making it up. Like, oh yeah, the interviewer gave me a copy of their book to read because we got on so well, and just little things which, before you go into the interview room yourself, or if you've come away from one feeling really rubbish about, you don't want to hear these things. And the way that people were saying them it seemed very intentional. And I did have to remove myself from this situation with this one girl who I just didn't like what she was saying because it was very off-putting. Be aware of how people are making you feel, because their interview might have gone horrifically and their coping mechanism might be to project that it went super well. So it's not always an accurate representation. Some people were clearly very, very, very well educated. I met some privately educated people who they looked groomed for that interview room. They knew exactly what they were doing. I met people whose like dad went to Oxford, their mum went to Cambridge, and like everyone before them had gone to Oxbridge. Equally, I met people who really didn't seem to know what was going on, and that was fine. It's such a range of people being interviewed. I think you just have to be super strong in yourself to not let yourself get paranoid when you speak to other people, because naturally you want to compare, just don't do it. And if you don't want to talk about interviews at all in the common room, don't talk about interviews. Just tell people, be like, oh hey, I'm trying to distract myself, do you think we could talk about something else? And then ask where they're from and ask about their family and ask about all these other things that aren't related to the interviews, if that helps you. Did it knock your confidence being rejected? And if so, how did you regain it? Yes. At the time, I felt a lot of self-doubt. I somewhat convinced myself for a few days that there was no way I could achieve the grades that Oxford would have wanted, which was like A star, A or something. You start to convince yourself that you're like stupid and that's why they didn't want you, like you're not intelligent enough, which is so dangerous to think. I think for me, with time, you get closure on rejection, and with that you also regain your confidence. And for me, it was realising that I wanted the grades for myself, not for Oxford anyway, that kind of helped me regain my confidence. Do you know what? I actually think it can really help writing a list, like physically writing a list of things that you are proud of yourself for having done, or things you are good at, or just like bigging yourself up kind of things, because when you are rejected, I think it can make you feel so like low self-esteem in yourself that sometimes you forget all these things which are obvious to other people that make you amazing. Yeah, the rejection does not define you or your intelligence, your character, your capability for future success. Your rejection only defines that one decision at that one moment, which is okay, even though it's super hard to deal with at the time, which I get. Did you expect to get in? I have never been cocky about Oxford. I don't think anyone can say they're going to get in at all, and I never like expected like, oh gosh, yes, like I'm a study tuber, guys, I'm gonna get in. I didn't think my interview went like horrendously, so I thought there might be a chance, but the rejection was not like a surprise. It wasn't like, oh, I was so certain I'd get in, that it was like, oh my god, like why have I been rejected? I think especially from my school, not many people have gotten in the whole time of my school. So I think I always knew that coming from a state school, like it wasn't guaranteed at all ever that I would get in. So as I said in my other video, rejection is not the end of the world. And Since that rejection, I have grown and matured in so many ways. Like, I am a different person in so many ways to that person who was rejected in January. If you have faced rejection, I am so sorry, because I fully know and appreciate how hard it is to deal with, especially when you set yourself up so much for it and get like emotionally invested. Please know that with time, you'll realise that that might have been the best decision ever, and that every future success you can define. Yeah, you can go watch my other video at the end of it if you want more of a little rejection spiel. But yeah. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your questions. I really do hope this was useful, insightful. I think I would have loved to have seen a video like this when I needed it, when I was rejected. I hope that this video can serve as that for someone. Yeah. Bye.